June 6th, 2020. This has been a bad week for Donald Trump. A very bad week. And that made it a good week for America, mostly. As for Joe Biden, kind of a mixed bag week-wise. The race baiter-in-chief began the week on a sour note, and it only got worse from there. Because, gassing Americans just isn't a good look under any circumstances. So the bloated gas bag took a stroll across the street to pose, awkwardly, with the Bible, a Bible, in front of a church in a transparent attempt to pander to the so-called Christians who consider him one of their own. So yeah, the reality show president gathered his supporting cast, including his bimbo daughter, her vacuous husband, the clueless Secretary of Defense, and a ready-to-dominate and camouflage chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff so he could use the Bible as a prop and a church as a television set. Just like Jesus would do. The Twitter twat also essentially called for the military occupation of U.S. cities, referring to governors who might object as jerks. Apparently, because if he called them pussies, he'd be tempted to grab them. And all of this happened in the wake of being whisked away to inspect the secure bunker below the White House during a mostly peaceful protest in Lafayette Park. Sorry, but wasn't this the guy who said, "I really believe I'd run in there, even if I didn't have a weapon," following the Parkland school shooting? For those of you scoring at home, in less than a week, your favorite president proved beyond a doubt that he has never read the Bible, has never read the Constitution, and is a straight-up coward. That's quite the trifecta, and we haven't even mentioned the fact that he called Friday a great day for George Floyd because the unemployment rate dropped 1.4% in May. Anyway, Friday may not have been such a great day for George Floyd, who is, after all, dead. But it was a pretty good day and week for America, the belligerent blowhard on Pennsylvania Avenue notwithstanding. Because 10 days, and counting, of demonstrations have demonstrated that Americans, including such military leaders as the president's former defense secretary, will not be intimidated by empty strong-armed threats against their First Amendment right to peaceable assembly. And while the current Oval Office occupant alienates even some of his strongest supporters by being, a total dick, his four living predecessors spoke with a compassion and humility that true leaders aren't afraid to show. Jimmy Carter, who not only read the Bible but has taught it, pleaded that we need a government as good as its people, and we are better than this. Bill Clinton also knows a verse or two from the King James Version. Referring to Martin Luther King Jr.'s vision of racial equality, Clinton said, "Today that dream seems even more out of reach, and we'll never reach it if we keep treating people of color with the unspoken assumption that they're less human." George W. Bush, who had his own come-to-Jesus moment with no less than Billy Graham, added, "This is not the time for us to lecture. It is time for us to listen. It is time for America to examine our tragic failures. And as we do, we will also see some of our redeeming strengths." And Barack Obama, speaking of and to the protesters, he said, "They deserve our respect and support, not condemnation," something that police in cities like Camden and Flint have commendably understood. As for Trump's presumptive opponent, it's moments like these that can bring out his very best. Joe Biden's real strength is his ability to relate to people going through challenging times. His greatest weakness, of course, is that he can't help himself. He just has to stick his foot in his mouth every once in a while. So for every time Biden promises, "I see you, I hear you, and I'm angry as well, but we have to turn our anguish into purpose," he comes up with a comment like, "If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black," that he has to apologize for later. And with each humble expression that, "I thought you could defeat hate. I thought you could kill hate, but you can't. Hate only hides. He goes all Hillary with, there are probably anywhere from 10 to 15% of the people out there that are just not very good people. So that was the week that was. The president proved, again, that he's a disgusting dirtbag with no sense of morality, history, or, basic grammar. His predecessors showed that, for all their flaws, they can speak to and for a nation struggling with its past, present, and future. And his would-be successor demonstrated that there are probably anywhere from 10 to 15% of the things he says that are just plain stupid. It was 7 days of the bad, the good, and the ugly.